Hello, it's Steve Akley here at my shop, the ABV Barrel Shop in Arnold, Missouri, a St. Louis suburb. We're here today to talk about a great story that you have not heard before, and I know you haven't heard it because I haven't told it to you, and I may be the only person who knows this story outside of the two individuals, and I'm probably the only one that thinks it's funny enough to tell it to other people because I think it's a great story. So we're going to get into that today. Should be a fun one. I'm also going to include two bonus stories where I talk about times in my life when I was absolutely terrified. It has nothing to do with bourbon, and I thought I would tell it today because I have on my Creature from the Black Lagoon shirt here. Big fan of that movie. I loved it when I was a kid. I like the intenseness of it. I grew up in the 70s, very different than kids today. I think if you watch that movie today and it's your first exposure to it, I think you'd kind of hate it, actually. The special effects really aren't there or anything like that. But for me as a kid, and watching this in, I don't know, 73, 74, and a black and white TV in my room, terrified. I mean, you see this monster, this ugly-ass creature, and he's coming up, and this girl jumps in. She's just taking a swim in this lagoon. She's swimming, swimming at the top, and she's going across like this. And then here comes the monster. He's coming up, and he's making his way towards her, and he's kind of reaching for her, but she's swimming, and he's kind of a little bit slower swimmer because he's a monster, and he's reaching out, and just kind of misses. So here's her feet dangling down, and here's his hand, and it just misses. And this happens a bunch. It builds up, and as you're a little kid in that era, man, that seemed pretty real to me. So as I go back and watch it now, the special effects, the way it's done, it's kind of a little bit laughable, but that's okay. It brings you back to that time when you were a kid, sitting in your room, my 10 by 10 room in St. Louis, which is smaller than my master bathroom now, with my parents didn't want to watch my stupid monster movies. So I'm watching it by myself in my room. I had the old TV. It was cool being the oldest. I got the old black and white TV when they switched to color. When I was a kid, believe it or not, they switched from black and white to color in my lifetime. And my sister didn't get a TV until much later because they didn't have the money just to go out and buy TVs. I got the TV that they had. It was like a living room TV. It was on a stand, black and white, and but it was, for me, it was cool. I love that TV. I would kind of wish I still had it. I don't know why, but I kind of wish I did. But I'll tell two bonus stories at the end of times about that era when I was legit terrified, and should be fun. The story today, though, is a bourbon story. It's about two giants from the bourbon industry, a guy by the name of Jim Rutledge and Jason Brauner is the other one. Those two, if you don't know them, you certainly should. So Jim Rutledge, I think, is most famous in the world of bourbon for his role as master distiller of Four Roses. Now, he went to work for Four Roses in like 1966 or something like that, and the company was owned by Seagram's at that time. And ultimately, he gets transferred to New York, where he's not in distilling or anything like that. He's not a master distiller by trade. His job is to document, process, reduce costs, those type of things, create efficiencies. That was his role. So he's looking at every process and trying to make things, simpler to do, but more cost effective, and do an analysis to see, when you change something, what is the impact on product, the quality versus the price that you're doing that. So that was his job. And he does that in New York. After many years, he decided he wanted to come back to the distillery and work in a master distiller role because he knew how to do it, because he had documented all the process, and he wanted to do that role. He wanted to be creative, artistic thing that, but really, for the most part, following the documented process, and then just creating efficiencies, and then incrementally getting better and better was his idea. That he can when he's hands-on distilling, he can make things keep getting better and better and stuff like that. So that's how he would turn around Four Roses. Ultimately, he gets in there and things are pretty bad, and he begins distilling, and of course they're always checking the numbers. He'd have to. He and Al Young worked together, the great Al Young, another name from the world of bourbon, and maybe at some point we'll do a video about him. I've got some great Al Young stories. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but really an important person from the world of bourbon. Most remembered these days by bourbon fans, as they had the famous tribute to him. They did a release of Four Roses, a limited edition that celebrated his career when he hit the 50-year mark. He would, like I said, continue on several more years after that. So Jim becomes this great master distiller that turns things around. Four Roses, of course, was in the toilet, especially in the U.S. I think they were doing okay in Japan because they've been bought out by Japanese investors. But he starts the process of getting that back into the United States. And maybe I'll release a video about that, or even better yet, I'd love to release a movie where he tells that story. We already have that movie shot. So we did a movie called Blending is Trending. Jim's probably in there for 7 minutes or something like that, heavily edited, because you have to do that when you're making a movie. But we probably filmed an hour and a half or 2 hours where he told that entire story. And I think it's worthy of just releasing on a movie by itself. So that's something we need to do. It's always a matter of time and getting together to do something like that. I have a creative partner and a guy by the name of Bo Cumberland who does all the film editing and stuff like that. So I got to see what his schedule looks like. And if it works, I'll get him to make that movie. So the other person in this story is my buddy Jason Brauner. I've talked about him in some of these videos before. He's the guy that owns Bourbon's Bistro. That's where I met Jason. Really good dude. He helped me out a lot when I was getting started in the world of bourbon media. He allowed me to stay at Bourbon's Bistro. So when I would travel to Kentucky, I was getting killed on hotel rooms, kind of an expensive city for hotels. I would stay at Bourbon's Bistro, no cost, and it was fun, actually, too. I loved that time. I'd sleep on a couch there, but man, I felt pretty darn good being at Bourbon's Bistro, the best bourbon bar in the world, and I just kind of liked being there, because I'd go there, late, have dinner, because they've got great food there, by the way, and I'd have dinner, and yeah, we'd talk bourbon with Jason and his friends, and then probably shut the place down, and then I go to bed at Bourbon's Bistro. Pretty awesome. And I might have snuck a few drinks there from time to time. Maybe. I don't know if I can incriminate myself there. I don't know if Jason will watch this or not. Hopefully he doesn't. Jason, you shouldn't be watching this. So that's one thing that he does. Now he's known for Buzzard's Roost. He still has Bourbon's Bistro. You can still go there and see him. I think Buzzard's Roost keeps him pretty busy, so he's not there as much as he used to be. But Buzzard's Roost is a great brand. They're doing some really cool things. Their finishing barrels are awesome, impart some great flavors and stuff like that. So those are the two individuals there. Jason, a restaurateur, is dreaming of starting a bourbon brand and really opening a distillery at that time. Jim Rutledge, of course, had retired from Four Roses, and he spent quite a few years also trying to open a distillery. Looking for investors. That becomes the key thing here. Both of them, one day, and those guys are both really good friends, by the way. Like when Jim Rutledge retired from Four Roses, his retirement party was at Bourbon's Bistro. So those two are really good buddies. And I guess Jim came into Bourbon's Bistro, was having a few drinks at the bar there, and Jason was talking. And they're both talking about they're trying to start these distilleries, and they talked about what that would look like dollar-wise, and both of them had the same number, $30 million. It's going to cost you $30 million to build a distillery that can have enough impact to have nationwide distribution in a relatively short amount of time, and that's what both of them wanted. So they both had these business plans where they were going to spend $30 million. They decided at some point, let's get together and let's share information. Since we're both looking at about the same cost or investment, let's get together and share our plans, because maybe you've thought of things that I haven't, and vice versa. We could get together and do that. They decide to eat at a place called Homestead Pizza in Kentucky. It's a chain. Not very good, by the way, if you like other types of pizza. Kentucky isn't a home to really great pizza. Great whiskey, but I don't know. If you know where a good pizza place is in Kentucky, let me know, because I haven't really found one yet. Jason used to own a pizza place. Maybe that was really good. I'm not sure. I never ate there when he had the pizza place. I've always known him from Bourbon's Bistro. So those two decide they're going to get together. Homestead Pizza. They sit down at the restaurant. They order, a medium pepperoni pizza. And they sit there and they said, all right, let's talk business. Because Jim's kind of a business guy. Like I said, very process, detail-oriented. And he's going to start sharing his stuff first. So they both take their piece of pizza on their plate and take that. And then Jim gets into it. And again, he's a very detailed guy. So he starts going through the stuff, EBITDAs, all this investment stuff that really probably flies over my head. I would have been very bad at this meeting if I had to go there. So he's talking numbers and, the amount of acres you're going to need to do that, and what the plan would be. What do you do in the interim when you want to try to make some money? So he's going through all this stuff. And Jason's listening to this, but he's also eating pizza. Jim's not really eating his pizza. He's got his slice on his plate, and he's too busy talking and sharing numbers. He's got documents here. Take a look at this, Jason. Look at this pie chart and all this. And he's sharing all this information. And Jason's eating pizza. He's like, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Us too. We thought of that. So he's eating this. And Jim finally gets done, puts his stuff away, and looks up at the pizza tray. and it's empty. Jason had ate the rest of the pizza. He ate the whole thing while Jim was talking about his stuff. Jim has his one slice, and he luckily had procured that and put that on the plate. Jason might ate the whole thing. And and then it was time for Jason, and he was just like, I basically got everything you do. You know, he wasn't as prepared as Jim was, because really nobody could be. He didn't have that. He just thought it was two guys talking. So, you know, it's one of those embarrassing things where you get somebody who's super prepared, has all this documentation and charts and graphs and stuff, and you're just wanting to talk and shoot the breeze. Totally different things in mind. And I asked Jason what was his thought on that. He was like, I embarrassed myself that day. So that's the story of the pizza incident with those two greats from the world of bourbon. So I talked about, I've got a couple bonus stories for you. I didn't want to incorporate them into this bourbon stuff, so those will be on here, and be sure to check those out. I think you'll have some fun with them if you like me telling stories, and that's exactly what's happened there. If not, you just want to hear bourbon stuff, this is the sign off. See you later. Bye. Now for two times in my life when I got terrified as a kid. And so the first one was, I loved movies like that. And one time at Six Flags, there's a Six Flags by me. They had the Universal Monsters show or something like that. It was like a Frankenstein show. And you go there and, it's they're flashing the lights a little bit as the lightning strike, and it's going to make the Frankenstein monster. And sure enough, the monster comes alive. Dr. Frankenstein brings the monster to life. And he's kind of walking around. Next thing you know, something goes wrong. I don't remember exactly what went wrong. And the monster gets mad. And then the monster, knocks out Dr. Frankenstein. He's knocked out on the floor. He's out of the picture. So now on the stage, it's Frankenstein by himself. And all of a sudden, he leaves the stage and, he starts walking through the audience. And I'm there, on the aisle seat with my dad so I can see stuff. My sister, my mom's covering my sister's eyes because she's freaking out. I think they had already left. That was too intense for them. So I got my dad, and he's laughing. And I'm like, this is real. Here he comes. And I just then take off because I'm on the other side. My dad had to chase me down, and I didn't want to see that anymore. He's like, we can go back in and watch it. I'm like, no, I'm done with that show. I was out there crying, and I didn't want to see. I was done with that show. It was close. It was close. The other time I got terrified also involved my dad, who also, by the way, laughed at this. So we go to a wrestling. I had two times in my life when I was really into wrestling. When I was 5 or 6, I got really into wrestling and liked watching. We had Wrestling at the Chase, which was the local shows that we used to do. And I used to watch that. And that was pretty cool too. And then the other thing that I used to do when I got into wrestling was in high school, the Hulk Hogan era and Andre the Giant, the end of his career and stuff like that. I got into it then as well. Now, wrestling's fake. People write, who cares? If it's fun to watch and you're enjoying it, and they're certainly athletic, they're jumping around and doing some amazing things, stunts and stuff like that. If you view it as, okay, it's a stunt show, then it's well, this is cool. But if you're oh, this is a real sport, then people hate it and they feel compelled. If you mention wrestling, people feel compelled to tell you that it's fake, even though is there anybody who truly believes it's not fake? Well, I don't know. I guess if you watch the wrestling videos, there are some that are there, but maybe they're just having fun. I don't really know. Who knows? It's just fun, harmless entertainment, and I don't know. The professional sports are kind of fake too, really. They don't really care. It's all about money, right? It's all about TV commercials and money and stuff like that. At least wrestling is now, hey, we're fake. So anyway, so I go to this wrestling match. I'm 5, 6 years old, tops or something like that. And Ox Baker comes out. He's the villain. You gotta have a hero and a villain. He's the bad guy, and he wins his match. Ox Baker, and nobody likes him, and they're all yelling at him. And we're at the Chase Park Plaza. It was Wrestling at the Chase, small place. And my dad, of course, was a policeman. He had the ability to get good seats. So we're right where the wrestlers are going to walk by. It's all positioned where the wrestlers are going to walk by. And I'm giving it to Ox Baker. I don't like you. I hate you, Ox, and all that. And I'm yelling at him. He goes by and he's yelling at someone else and stuff like that. He's interacting with the crowd, being the heel. That was his gig. He's being the heel. And I'm yelling at him and trying my best to get his attention, saying how much I hate him and stuff like that. All of a sudden, he turns around. Now, he's a big man with the big mustache and stuff like that. Scary looking dude. He turns right around and says to me, I ought to slap your butt. And I'll tell you what, I sat down in that chair and I didn't say another word to that man. I was done. I just sat there And you may say wrestling's fake, and you may say that was fake, but I'll tell you what, for me, that felt pretty damn real at that moment in time. I'll tell you what, that was it. I had to slap your butt. Whoop. What? I sat down. I didn't say another word to him. Thanks, buddy. So there you go. There's a bonus, a couple of short stories of times in my life when I got terrified, and I thought you'd just like those as a nice little bonus. See you guys.